Federal recommendations about the COVID vaccine this year have been really confusing. Back in June, U.S. Secretary of Health Robert F. Kennedy fired the members of a panel that creates federal vaccine guidance. And Kennedy has also attempted to limit who can access the vaccine. And he spread misinformation about its safety. Yesterday, the CDC gave a sort of soft endorsement of the COVID vaccine for everyone. What that means and whether you can get the shot on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Morja Wealth Management, serving the North Country for 3 generations. MorjaWM.com. Securities offered through Hightower Securities, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Hightower is an SEC-registered investment advisor. And Kinney Drugs, whose pharmacists offer routine seasonal vaccines for older adults, including senior dose influenza, COVID, RSV, and pneumonia. Details at KinneyDrugs.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Tuesday, October 7th. First up, construction of the Adirondack Rail Trail is officially complete. The 34-mile recreation corridor connects Lake Placid, Saranac Lake, and Tupper Lake. State officials were in Tupper over the weekend to open the third and final section of the trail to the public. Construction began 5 years ago when the rail ties were removed from the old railroad tracks. According to the governor's office, the Adirondack Rail Trail cost the state just under $40 million. The state is also spending tens of millions of dollars renovating the 84-mile scenic railroad from Tupper Lake south to Remsen. Young adults in the U.S. are using e-cigarettes or vapes more than any other tobacco product. That's according to the CDC. Most of them want to quit, but researchers say treatment for young people is scarce. Raquel Stephen of the New York Public News Network reports on a new state-led treatment that's designed with young people in mind.
The New York State Health Department partnered with the state's Quit Line to launch the Drop the Vape texting program. Dr. Christine Sheffer and her team led the program's development.
It's about meeting them where they are as best we can. It's not going to change the world, but there are very few resources for young people to quit.
Sheffer said the 6-week program uses evidence-based approaches to treatment. She says the messages will include tools for managing stress, handling cravings, and withdrawal symptoms. But Dr. Holly Russell, who practices family medicine at URMC, says sometimes other forms of treatment are needed for quitting to be successful.
We don't have great evidence, but what we do have shows a combination of cognitive behavioral therapy plus probably medications, especially if teens are on that severely dependent end. They probably need both.
To register for the texting program, visit dropthevape.org. In Rochester, I'm Raquel Stephen for the New York Public News Network.
So through the whole federal confusion of the COVID vaccine this year, New York put out its own guidance and tried to move ahead without the federal government. But yesterday's CDC sign-off makes things quite a bit more straightforward, but it also introduces a new wrinkle in the process. Catherine Wheeler has been studying up on the COVID vaccine and the latest flu shot, and she breaks it all down with Monica Sandreski.
So this year, the FDA has approved the COVID-19 vaccine for people who are 65 years and older and for people who have health conditions that put them at a high risk for severe COVID. Those are the groups that the federal government recommends it for. Beyond that, New York State recommends a few additional groups to get the shot because of high risks. That includes pregnant people, children who are 6 months to 2 years old, and people with certain underlying health conditions. For the rest of us, we were in a gray zone for a while. The CDC wasn't officially recommending it, but New York State was. But that changed yesterday when the CDC signed off on an advisory panel's recommendations that anyone 6 months and older can get the vaccine if they want. But it comes with one big caveat. You're going to have to participate in what's called shared clinical decision making. And that's basically a risk and benefits conversation with your pharmacist or doctor who's ever giving you the shot. shot. I talked with Natalie Powers. She's a pharmacist and the director of clinical services for Kinney Drugs. And that pharmacy chain is where lots of people in the North Country get their seasonal vaccines.
We don't want it to be a barrier. We want it more to be, your decision to receive the vaccine. So we're very happy to be able to, facilitate these conversations and that we as pharmacists are part of that shared clinical decision making.
So Powers says they're not limiting vaccines, but the pharmacist will have to have that quick conversation with you about risks and benefits. Some critics say this step creates an unnecessary barrier to getting the shot, which many experts along with the CDC say is safe and helps protect people from getting severe COVID. And just a note I want to put out there, Powers says Kinney's won't be able to give the COVID shot to kids who are younger than 3, so they'll have to visit a doctor's office.
So virtually anyone can go into a pharmacy or to the doctor's office and get a COVID vaccine this year. Is that covered by insurance?
Yes, most people's shots should be covered by insurance, and that's whether it's a private or a government health plan. Before the CDC signed off on the recommendation this week, there was an issue for children on Medicaid being covered for the vaccine, but that's been taken care of, and kids on Medicaid should be covered now.
All of this created a lot of uncertainty over the past few months. Has that had any impact on people's faith in the government's health recommendations?
All of these recommendations and approvals took a lot longer than usual this year, and it prompted states all across the U.S., including New York, to add their own guidance, and that added to the confusion. So I talked with Dr. Jim McDonald about it. He's New York's Commissioner of Health. He says when the government has this back and forth, it damages the credibility of its recommendations.
As a state health department, our interest is making sure we protect and promote your health and well-being. And I think this gets into the issue of people are getting their health advice from way too many sources that just lack credibility. Because when you think about your own health and well-being, really you're the one who suffers when you don't take advantage of things that are available to you. And I really, it breaks my heart when I see people are suffering from an illness that quite frankly could easily have been prevented.
So that's COVID. We're also headed into flu season. What are the recommendations for flu shots?
So the recommendation is to get one. Last year's flu season was pretty rough. 26 children in New York died of the flu, and that number has been increasing each season over the past few years. So it's pretty important to get the flu shot, not just for yourself, but the people around you. I asked Dr. McDonald to give me a little pitch for the people who say, I never get the flu shot and I'm fine, or I got the flu shot once and that's the only time I've gotten the flu. And this is what he had to say.
One of the misconceptions about the flu is that it's like just a bad cold. If you ever had the honest to goodness flu, you know it. Because you feel like you got run over by a truck. It hurts to comb your hair. I mean, you cough like it's no one's business. It really is painful to have the flu with the high fever. I think the thing we run into sometimes is people get confused. You might have had a bad cold. You thought you had the flu, but you just had a bad cold. And although there's treatment for the flu with Tamiflu, it's a lot better just to prevent yourself from having a bad case of the flu. Because even if you get the flu with the flu vaccine, much milder case of it, you recover much quicker.
And here's a little bit I didn't know about the flu shot. Dr. McDonald told me that keeping up with your flu shots each year gives you an advantage in the long run to fighting the flu off. And that's because flu shots target different strains every season. So you're building up lots of different kinds of antibodies over time. And you can schedule your COVID and flu shots for the same appointment and knock them both out at the same time.
That's Catherine Wheeler speaking with Monica Sandreski on our daily morning news show, Northern Light. You can find all the specifics about the COVID and flu vaccine guidance on our website at ncpr.org. We have more news there all the time, ncpr.org. Music by Christopher Watts of Canton and Adrian Carr of Plattsburgh. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.